Hello, everyone. It's time for another episode of Off the Hook with Matty D. I'm your host, Matt DiNardo, and it is so great to have you along today. Today's really kind of a cool segment, a cool episode, because maybe when you first started fishing, you put a worm on a hook through a bobber or a little float out there, and it was in a pond, and all of a sudden the bobber went down, and you had this bluegill or sunny or pumpkin seed, whatever you may call it. It's a panfish. And panfish on the fly rod is exploding in popularity. Well, to bring in my guest today and to talk a little bit more about that, of course, is my friend Simone Valencia. Good morning, Captain Simone.
Hey, Maddie, we're talking about everyone's first love today, and it can be your first love again.
It is, you and I mean, we talk about stripers, we talk about shad, and we talk about redfish, I talk about salmon, but we all started on that little backyard pond. Maybe it was a public pond. And all of a sudden, it was like, bobber down, ooh, 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 that kind of a thing.
And there's just so many of them,
Yeah.
and they pull pretty hard for their size, and they've given us some phenomenal days. And heck, I went yesterday to try to get some more footage,
Mm-hmm.
and I only caught like three or four.
Should have
'Cause
called me. I would have joined you. I would have done filming. We'd have had a great time.
you were you were on the set
I was
yesterday.
working. There's a
Yeah,
shocker.
but I didn't catch many because the river was kind of stained.
Yeah.
Um, but then I moved into a little creek, and that's where I caught my fish. But I have a couple of pictures and videos, but not
Yeah.
not anything super good. All super long videos. But I went yesterday, and every fish that I caught, I'm like giggling because they were all tiny,
Right.
small even for panfish.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like we're talking
Well,
tiny fish,
we
tiny
have some pictures of some that are super small that you sent in, and we'll get to that in a second. So we talk about this, Simone, and we say that this is, as you said, everybody's first love. I mean, here's a young boy enjoying what might be his first time on a fly rod,
It
catching
is his
a.
first time on a fly rod.
This is one of your guys. So okay, so let's talk before we get into this, because this is just awesome, right? What are panfish for those that don't know?
So panfish is a pretty wide group of fish.
Hmm.
I mean, it's a wide family that actually includes smallmouth and largemouth bass.
It
For
does.
those who
Okay.
don't know, but smallmouth and largemouth bass are panfish. Um, their behavior is very similar to what people think of panfish or sunfish. Um, they include a whole ton, like the species in the list of species in the U.S. is over. It's almost 20 fish,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
then people will group. There are perch that are panfish, but there are panfish that are perch. I don't know.
Yeah.
It gets pretty complicated. That being said, when I think I'm going pan fishing, I think of I'm going somewhere where there's a lot of palm-sized fish,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Hand-sized fish, in warm water. And that really is all it takes. All it takes for these fish is warm, relatively clean water, and they're probably gonna be there.
Yep.
Um, they're plentiful in the James. They're plentiful in any of the creeks that empty into the James. They're plentiful in trout streams in Virginia. They're plentiful on any smallmouth stream in Virginia. They're plentiful at every single pond. At some point, some bird is gonna drop a panfish in it. They are plentiful. Almost if it's wet and deeper than a foot,
There's probably a fish.
there's probably panfish in
Right.
there.
And, and, and,
Um,
and they are super easy to catch. I mean, in terms of, because they are so plentiful,
mhm.
it makes it everybody's kind of first fish, first love kind of a thing.
Right. It's easy, but it's also not a giveaway.
Okay, yeah.
Like, right. So like people say panfish are easy, and I'm like, yeah, it's easy compared to other species.
Right.
Um, but you can get really good at it too. Right. So you can get really good at panfish, and you could be the best panfish angler in the world, like Ricky Tilson.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ricky Tilson is a regular at our shop, And when we do our annual panfish tournament, which we'll come back around for, Ricky Tilson this year won biggest fish and smallest fish. Biggest fish, 11 over 11 inches citation.
Right.
Smallest fish, under 2 inches. And I've actually sent you pictures of both. We'll run through both of them. But they're plentiful, but they still present a challenge, right? You still have to make good casts. You still have to make good drifts. You still have to twitch the fly the right way. So it really is fishing. It's just that it's very target rich, so it's also going to reward you very often.
Very often, right.
And I just love it. I love that about it.
And is there a season for panfish? We know that obviously warm water, and so that summer is probably better. But is that like coming out of spring, going summer, early fall? Are those kind of the seasons that really work?
I catch panfish here in Virginia. I've caught panfish plenty, and like good numbers of panfish in February and January. I've caught plenty of them in July and August. Spring is really good. Fall is really good. I mean, you want good fishing.
Yeah.
Never turn your nose up at panfish.
Yeah.
Lefty prey, everybody's, educator icon in fly fishing, was once fishing in a pond, and somebody asked him, like, is this as fun as catching bonefish in the Bahamas? And he's like, every bit. Just giggling, pulling panfish after panfish, right? This guy who has traveled the whole world. Right. He's in his 80s at this point. He's traveled the whole world, fished everywhere, for every species, guided, just giggling like a little kid, catching panfish that big on a neighborhood pond.
Because it is just so much fun. And so we go back to this initial image that I put up here. So this is a quote-unquote client of yours. You took a kid out, and I mean, first time with a fly rod, and I mean, this is awesome stuff, Simone.
Yeah, it's so much fun. It's a really good introduction, and so this is a trip that I do quite often, and I always recommend it for kids. So like if parents are into fly fishing and they're like, I want to take my son out, I want to take my daughter out, I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do this kind of fishing, because these fish are so aggressive that they're also going to forgive mistakes.
Yep.
And we'll catch some. I think this kid got mad at me because he caught more than 7. Because it was his 7th birthday. He wanted to catch 7.
He should have stopped then.
Well, I told him not to.
Okay.
I was like, no, keep going, catch another 7.
Right.
He didn't catch another 7, but still, we do these short 2-hour trips.
Yep.
This is, believe it or not, within downtown Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
This picture is right here.
Right around. And that's the great thing, because you don't have to go to the Chesapeake Bay or to the streams in the mountains. You are going, I mean, an offshoot of the Appomattox, an offshoot of the James, and whatever it might be, an offshoot of the South Anna, up of the dam of the North Anna. I mean, anything, off of the Chickahominy, whatever you are, 5 minutes.
Every one of those places has panfish. Right. So it really is the people's fish. It's so accessible. They don't have any conservation issues to target them. They are hardy. They are aggressive. If they were any bigger, I would not be getting in the water. I have seen a panfish this big in a fly this big.
Like, they go after everything.
80% of its body size, it ate and hooked up Maddie on a 3/0 hook.
That's a ginormous hook for a small fish, right? But that's it.
That fish wanted it,
How many times am I out on the James fishing for shad or stripers, right? Schoolies, and you end up with a 4-inch white perch, and I'm like, on a size 4 extra long shank. It's like, what is this? But it's fun, and they pull so hard too, And of course you're overmatched, but it is what it is, So.
But if you match properly,
yep.
Right. So if you are with a spin rod and you're using an ultralight, or if you're out with a fly rod and you're using a 3-weight, you're still gonna get a good bend
Yeah.
on that rod,
Yeah.
and really, that's all that matters.
Exactly right. We're going to talk about that because this is becoming a really cool thing for people of our age getting back into fly fishing for panfish. Two kids here. You mentioned, just the size of them. I mean, fish is as big as this young child's palm, but then you have this one here. It's a guppy. This is the one you caught yesterday?
No, this one won our smallest fish during the Panfish Championship. I think because panfish are so plentiful and people interact with them so often,
Right.
That's the main reason why we make a tournament in the middle of August. Those fish are still active in August, and they're having a great time. And there's nothing really else to fish for. So when August comes around, we make this goofy tournament with low stakes.
Right.
Like it's free to enter, so that's the winner.
Beautiful pumpkin seed.
It's a tournament that's free to enter.
Yep.
It's got good prices. It's an excuse to go out and fish the hottest month of the year,
right?
Which is usually, to me, one of the slowest. And fall back in love with a fish that actually is eating all year, right?
Yeah.
And it's probably our first true love. So we do this tournament, and we have a price for the smallest fish, and we have a price for the biggest fish. And yes, a smallest fish price. This was both Ricky Tilson, he's the defending champion for the smallest fish now 2 years in a row.
I mean, this might be tough to beat for a small fish. I mean, we're measuring that fish in 4 to 5 centimeters.
Right, he just shy of 2 inches.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Yeah.
So and you look at Ricky. He's a tall, big guy. It's funny when I see a picture of him. This picture,
yeah,
I love this picture. I have talked about my buddy and regular Dr. Dan.
Mm-hmm.
This is Dr. Dan's first fish
ever on a fly rod. Yeah, and
that's it.
And so again, panfish, because it can be forgiving, so that if we have we're not casting correctly, we're not twitching right, there's a lot of forgiveness because all you do is present it near the panfish, give it that right little twitch, all of a sudden, loop, and we're on.
And they eat topwater, and they eat under the water. They eat nymphs, they eat streamers, right? They eat other bait fish, they eat whatever. They eat leeches, they eat worms, you can catch them however you want to catch them, and they're really, really fun. And numbers, right?
Right.
You get onto a good panfish bite.
You could be there all day.
Yeah. Oh, even in a couple of hours, you can pull out 40, 50. I do always suggest that people pinch the bar once they've caught a few.
Right. Because you really want to preserve these fish. Again, we always talk about preserving any fish for sure, right? But these are ones that we want to allow other anglers to experience, especially if they're just starting, make it easy. And it's just good preservation for the entire species. So.
Right. And these fish are plentiful, and I don't think they're going anywhere. We'd have to try really hard, but we want to be kind to the fish too, right? That came out to play. We don't really want to mark them up too much. A barbless piercing on these fish. Here's Reed. Barbless piercing on these fish. It does nothing to them, right?
Right.
Taking out the barb might rip a little bit of the cartilage, and we don't really want to do that.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
They'll recover. They're so tough. They are so tough. If we just handle them quickly, they always recover. But
I mean, Reed, myself, we've been fishing for 20, 30 plus years, fly fishing for that or more. I mean, and it's still, you look at the way he's looking at this fish, he's like, this is really cool. This is really cool,
They are beautiful.
Yeah.
Right? They're just stunning fish. This was while trout fishing.
While trout fishing. So dry, I'm guessing, or maybe not. Maybe it's nymph. Yeah, because it's a fall or winter here. Yeah, and
Yeah.
just, all of a sudden you're like, oh, yeah, and sometimes that's a little disappointing, right? Because you're targeting for trout, and all of a sudden this sunny or pumpkin seed, comes up here. They are so beautiful too. They have so many different color variations, stripes, spots. They're just awesome.
Yeah, man. I just don't think you should trust somebody who doesn't love them.
Yeah.
Just, if someone turns their nose up at fishing for panfish, like that's not a real angler, you know?
It's not a real angler. It's
That's just
true. Because, and there's been this kind of resurgence, I want to call it that, maybe in the past 2, 3, I think probably since COVID, where more people got out to fish, right?
yeah,
And it was easier to go closer to home. And now you're fishing for panfish. And people are like, as you said before, I'm going to do it on my 2-weight or my 3-weight because, again, this fish is maybe 4 inches. It's
yeah.
not ginormous, but it puts a great bend in the rod. It gives you that fight. You're light lining, and you're having fun for a couple of hours.
And yeah, I mean that really is all what it's all about. Panfish is accessible.
Yeah.
Panfish is fly fishing for everybody, right? That it makes it so easy. I mean, of course, the equipment's never inexpensive,
Right.
right? But once you have it, all you need is a fishing license. And Maddie, I live in Churchill. I could walk to at least 3 or 4 different spots within 20 minutes of my house where I can catch panfish.
And that makes it fun. So, you said it's not, fly fishing itself, there's some pricey things with fly fishing, but most fly anglers, maybe I'm short-minded here, I think start off with a 4-weight or a 5-weight rod because you think of trout. And so if you have that in your arsenal, you got something for panfish where you're not going to be severely overmatched. And maybe I'm wrong. I think unless you grow up in the Keys or Florida or along the coast where you're needing that heavier 9 or 10-weight rod, I think you're starting off in that very lower end rod.
That's an interesting conversation. So rod sizes are there to match the weight of the line, right?
Right.
So the thicker the line, the heavier it is, the bigger the flies it can throw,
Right.
the stiffer the rod, right? And that's just I know you know this, Maddie.
No, it's all good. It's all good, right.
I'm just trying to express it. So the bigger the fly you need to throw, the higher the size of the rod.
Yep.
As well as the bigger the fish you're trying to catch, or
Okay.
the harder the fight, the higher up you're gonna go with your rod size. So the recommendation, if you go online, most people are gonna tell you to get a 5-weight to start with. If you live in Richmond, my recommendation is that you start with a 7.
Okay.
I've always recommended a 7 because we have smallmouth bass, and smallmouth bass eat big stuff,
Okay.
right?
Right.
If you want to go smallmouth bass fishing, you can drive 5 minutes. If you want to go trout fishing, you got to drive an hour 30. So that 7-weight rod is probably going to get used more. And if you're gonna and you can catch panfish on a 7-weight, it's not as fun as on a little rod.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But I always recommend the 7 because then the spring comes around.
And you have the shad and you have the stripers, and you're in the right category for those fish.
Right. You need that sinking line. You need big flies. So I always say that if you're going to fish in Richmond, a 7's better. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Maddie. Like all of the literature that comes from Trout World is get a 4 or a 5 as your first rod.
And I think that's my upbringing was in the Adirondacks, fishing those streams, which was a 5-weight, and so that's why I tend to think of that. And then as I grew, next thing I know, I have a 9-weight in my hand, and then a 7, and then a this, and don't even ask now. I got everything from 3 to 9. It's I'm crazy.
I also have a little. I've made a little arsenal at this point. It's a little embarrassing.
Reels and all kinds of stuff. So you look at the difference of these two fish here. I mean, gray, kind of graphite-y, and then orange and bright. And again, we're just showing the differences of the different, panfish here in these.
And I wish I knew more about the specific species.
Right. There's so many. And so you and I have a mutual friend. I'll actually throw up his stuff here. His name is Bart Lombardo, who has a Facebook page and an Instagram page called Panfish on the Fly. And he's located in New Jersey. And he really, this is what he does. He goes for panfish, and he's made a living. He has books. You actually guided him here recently. I want to say back in March, maybe, or April.
Yeah, I think it was like early April that he was on my boat. Bart is a phenomenal guy. He is the perfect guy to champion the panfish on the fly movement. He is a trout guide in the cooler months, and switches over to panfish because why not?
Right.
Right. In his eyes as well, why not switch to panfish? I think guides have thought in the past that nobody would want to do it, right? But it turns out that people really do want to go fish for panfish, and that it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And there's nothing. They fight pound per pound as hard as a trout, if not harder. They eat more often. They give you all day action. They are forgiving. You're gonna catch more fish. So where's the issue?
Right. Where is the issue? Have fun with it. Enjoy it. And maybe you only have an hour or two, and you just want to. I just got to feel that tug, right? What's the term we always say? The tug is the drug, right? But I mean, yeah, I got an hour. I want to put a fish on. I want to have some fun. You're going to put a smile on your face, and that's all great. Hey, Simone, do you have any flies that you could recommend that people should tie for a pumpkin seed, a sunny, a panfish, that are, again, I know you have thousands of flies. Don't get me wrong here, right? So,
yeah. So the funny thing is, just about everything works. That's the funny thing. At a different point, just about everything works. I do like keeping my flies about this size right here. No bigger than this. This is a little Clouser minnow tied on a size 6 hook. So
with a
it's just
long
like a
tail,
tiny
little flash,
bumpkin,
just to add some,
right? So it's about 1.5 inches.
Yeah.
You can see that there.
Yep.
And then like little I found little bonefish flies work really well. Like this is a Christmas Island special.
Just enough little buoyancy with that material too.
This one actually sinks.
Because of the head?
Yeah, it
Okay.
has some bead chain eyes.
Gotcha. So are you twitching it then? Are you casting out and twitch, bring it in, kind of making it dance in the water? Yep.
Yeah, exactly. When you strip, it'll go up, and then it'll fall.
Yep.
They'll almost always eat while it's falling.
Gotcha. Yep.
But the truth is, just about any fly.
You could
in the summer they eat little trout flies on the surface, no problem. So like your elk-hair caddis, just your caddis imitation flies, your mayfly imitation flies, your stonefly imitation flies, beetles.
Yeah. This year probably cicadas when we had the
cicadas, dragonflies. They eat just about anything that falls up on the water. I mean, whatever.
Yep.
Anything, and again, Reed has hooked a 5-inch fish on a 4-inch fly before. So they'll try everything.
It is just amazing. It's a
There you
big.
go.
That's a big pan. This is the one again. That one that's nearly 11 inches here, right?
No, this is an average day with Reed Parker.
Oh wow.
Yeah, this is 10 inches. But Reed's swamp days, right? His like warm water days are so much fun. you're catching panfish. You're catching a bunch of species of panfish. You're
Mhm.
catching fish in the perch family, like crappie. You're catching bowfin. You're catching largemouth. You're shooting at gar. You're catching snake. I mean, Reed's program is so much fun. But in the mix, you're in prime environment
For
to be fishing for panfish,
right.
and you will catch some monsters because you're throwing flies for bigger fish, so that only the bigger ones really will hook on. Um, oh, Davy. There's a dragonfly imitation in that fish's mouth.
Is that what that blue is? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
fantastic.
they'll eat whatever on top. They'll eat anything with legs. Um, they'll also eat little like actual flies, like what you would think of a fly.
Hmm.
In the winter, in the fall and spring, they eat a lot of little bait fish patterns or leeches or crawfish. And in the winter, they eat more crawfish, smaller crawfish. That's when your woolly buggers really tend to work really well. Your smaller flies that kind of bounce off the bottom. There you go.
Yeah.
There is that fly.
Yeah.
Uh, that's a 3/0 hook.
It's a ginormous fly. I mean, look at the tail feathers of the fly go halfway up the fin's back, almost to the dorsal fin.
Yeah. That's a big eater, right? Like that thing is the fly didn't fit in its mouth. It just somehow got hooked.
It's classic, though. I mean, that's what makes it. And again, we're talking about it. We're smiling. We're having fun because we know what this is about. And here's a young child that's enjoying it as well. And then, again, older gentleman here loving
That's
it.
Reed's dad.
Wait, this is Reed's dad?
Reed's dad, who's been fly fishing forever, hooks into a crappie and is having time of his life. Given this one's a particularly nice one.
Yeah, for
but,
sure. Right.
These boys are out there having fun, you know?
Yeah.
Old Robbie, he's a phenomenal angler. There's pedigree in that family.
Well, we're going to have Robbie and Reed on in a couple of weeks talking about upland hunting. We worked that out the other day, so I'm excited about that. So we'll get to hear from Robbie and talk about some things. Gorgeous, sunny here as well. Hey, you know, we talk about the colors. You mentioned earlier, this is the second year you guys have run the panfish tournament. It was held on August 17th, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., fly rods only.
Party to follow.
And how many anglers came out for this?
I think it was 40.
That's a pretty good size.
Yeah, I think it was 40. It was a lot of fun.
And so what were the regulations? Like, where could you fish? Was it a one set pond or was it anywhere? What was the kind of the limitation there?
You get to go wherever you want.
Mm-hmm.
You have to register with us, right? It was free to register. Next year we're just debating whether to make a donation-based tournament.
Yeah.
So that we can donate to the James River Association or the Alliance for the Chesapeake, maybe a donation, because I think we could all put towards a benefit, and it'll be still accessible.
Sure.
But there's the price really comes out of the price is not gonna come out of the price of the tournament. It's gonna come out of our guide money. We are probably gonna put maybe, I don't know, it might be free again. Who knows? And maybe we'll.
You know what? I mean, I have no problem with a $25 donation entry fee, right? And if you get 40 anglers, you're giving $600-700 to the James River Association for a cleanup day. Helps them buy garbage bags, or and disposal fees, or whatever the case may be. I think it's a great idea, really.
Yeah, we're figuring out how to move forward with it,
sure.
But because I think that that people would want to do that.
For sure.
But maybe just voluntary donations. I think that might be the best way
Maybe
to go.
That's another way too, for sure.
But yeah, the last 2 years it's been free. And when I still want to keep the idea of a free tournament, like there's no money.
Mm-hmm.
If you win, you get a day on the water with me, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
But the panfish tournament starts early in the morning. We have people register. You pick up your ruler. Uh, Starts early, and the day of the tournament, those entries start coming in. The entries are just texts or Instagram messages. You just get the photos to us however you want.
Got it.
Um, and it gets really exciting because we'll update everyone who's like on the top three if they're getting bumped off. Or the smallest fish. Hey, you just got bumped off. You were
Just-
third, now you're second. You were
Somebody outclassed you with a 1-inch fish. But
that's gonna be tough.
but it's fun. It's fun for sure. Hey,
Um,
wait,
and it's August because there's nothing really else to fish for.
right.
That's like fire, that's like red hot. So
Yeah.
it gives people a good excuse to get out and
'Cause
have fun.
we always talk about trout need a break. It's too hot. We talk about sometimes it's way too hot even for smallies and largemouth. Obviously, ocean fish may not be kicking in at that time, right? So this is a perfect time for that. I get that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's talk a little business because my next picture, of course, brings me to this here, which is your shop is now, the brick and mortar is gone. However, the website still exists. Let's talk a little bit about this.
Yeah, we're just moving forward with the service provision part
Mhm.
of our operation, which is really what has taken off. Brick and mortar was great because it allowed us to meet a lot of new people.
Yep.
Brick and mortar did really good by us, but it's now, I think, taking away from what our true mission is. So as of this Saturday, we closed the doors,
Right.
and have focused more on service provision, now having more days available to do the things that people really want to do. We were running into issues that people wanted to book a trip and we couldn't go because we had to take care of the shop. Or people wanted a class and we couldn't do it during the hours that they wanted to because we had to be in the shop. That's not a problem anymore.
Sure.
Right, and there's a part of the operation that really works, and another part that was
Tough.
good, because it provided a space for us to get the word out and get started. But at this point, we are service provision only. That means we are doing a lot of classes.
Hmm.
We're doing classes outside. We have one this Sunday, but it's fully booked. Um, and this is what the issue that we were running into. We were booking just about every class we were doing and had to be in the shop and couldn't do more.
Right.
Um,
Last week you took the fly tying class on the road to Triple Crossings. That was great. There was about a dozen people there. Even I made
Yeah.
it. You made fun of me. It's all good.
I, I have a great. Oh, I'm always gonna make fun of you,
Of
Maddie.
course.
You're my brother.
It's good, baby.
I'm. Yeah, we had pizza,
Yep.
had beer. Triple Crossing very generously hosted us.
And you didn't
Tied
have
some
to know how to tie
flies.
flies. I mean, if you did, great. But like Ron Binstock, who sat next to me, has never tied a fly before. He's coming on my Salmon River trip. I taught him a fly to tie in 60 seconds. I mean, it's really a silly fly.
Yeah.
But at least it got him to learn how to use the tools, the thread, put the hook in the vise, the simple things.
Right.
That's really what it's about.
And this weekend, this last week, I really wanted it to be a kind of a social event, and I'm super glad that you came out and were actually able to teach a little bit.
I'm going to
But
do it every time.
There is gonna be a component that is a class,
Okay.
in the future. So the social tying is gonna be free. The class is gonna cost money because materials
Cost money, right?
Um, but there's going to be a teaching component to that. We are also working on our first winter comprehensive class, which is going to be a class that's going to be 4 hours Saturday, 4 hours on Sunday.
Okay.
Probably the first week of December is where I'm thinking that gap between Thanksgiving, just
Yep.
after Thanksgiving, but before the holidays, is kind of, I'm looking for that. I'm looking to do a little class there, which is 2 hour of an 8 hour comprehensive class, I'm probably gonna do a second one around February.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
And are you
that's gonna
focusing on specific flies at that time for fish that you might be targeting, or what's your thought process?
so these classes we've been doing, we did 4 this year.
Mm-hmm.
We did 4 the year before. Um, and these classes are for the very beginner.
Okay.
Um, these classes are for, I mean, I sent you a bunch of pictures from these classes. They're for the very beginner.
Yep.
They are covering everything from casting to knot tying to um, leader building and your knots to tying flies,
Gotcha.
uh, finding a specific species of fish through the seasons and how to target them, safety, how to measure your gauge, how to look at gauges, how to make sure that the river is safe,
Yep.
access spots, and when those access spots in town are safe to go. It really covers your like, oh, and gear. It
Mm-hmm. Okay.
covers gear,
Yep.
which I'm gonna love doing the gear part now that I don't have a retail space because it always felt like a sales speech pitch,
Right.
but it was an honest. This is what the gear is.
So it is
Um,
the A to Z of fly fishing for the beginner, really, if you think about it.
right. People call like 2-hour classes 101s,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like zero odds zero, right? I mean, it really like, okay, yeah, we got you to cast,
Right.
but what fish are in the river and when?
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, like that's a pretty basic question to me. That's a 101 question. Like, what's in there?
Mm-hmm.
What are we fly fishing for in Richmond?
And I think that's what you've done a great job explaining on the off the hooks, by the way, too. The different seasons we've talked about. So I think in a classroom, you could do that magnified, right? Which is awesome.
Yeah. So we're talking through the seasonality of it. I mean, we're talking through the specific feeding patterns. We're talking through the oxygen in the water. We're talking through the temperature of the water. We're talking through ambush points. We're talking through like all of the specifics that should take you to that level where that learning curve is cut,
Right.
right?
Right.
Uh, in my head, if you grabbed a fly rod and you went to the river and you wanted to learn what we put together in this class on your own, it would take you years.
Yep.
Uh, and that's an honest, like I've had people who have been fishing for years who come to this class and say, yeah, I've learned more in this 8-hour class than I've learned in years of doing it on my own. So the goal there is to cut that time and get you to
A more
being able
productive.
to confidently and comfortably get out to fish on your in your hometown waters
Mm-hmm.
within an 8-hour lesson,
Gotcha.
with a very reasonable expectation. Usually at the end of those classes, if the weather's nice, we actually all go out on the water,
Right.
and most of the time, 1 or 2 people from the 6 people that we do the class with
We'll get into
catch
fish.
fish.
Yeah. Right.
So it's clear like, okay, we're on the right path. The things were correct, and they kind of catch them on their own. I just kind of show them where we're accessing, and we spread out a little bit, and people do catch fish.
All
So
right. Let me get
those
back to
classes
this
are
real
a
quick
lot
because
of
we
fun.
got to wrap this up because I got to get back on the air. The phone number that we have listed here, is that phone number a business phone that's no longer, or have you routed that to a way to reach you guys?
Yeah, it's still active right now.
Okay.
Leave messages. We are in the process of breaking down shop
Okay.
and guiding.
Mm-hmm.
I have I'm guiding Friday and Saturday.
Right.
Saturday I have this guy who's
He's a horrible angler. He's a
I
horrible
would
angler.
I would say he's just a little bit, you know, distasteful and
He's got some work to do. I will tell everybody that the QR code on the screen will go to the website, which I know you're going to keep up and running because it's an easy way for people to reach you and Reed and to book and find out more information as well, right?
Maddie, see you Saturday.
Oh, I cannot wait. Simone, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me on Off the Hook with Matty D. Oh, boy. And then next week, by the way, just so everybody knows, when you join me, it's the recap of Saturday's fishing. Videos, pictures, might have to bleep some sound. That's all I'm going to say.
We might. What's the weather gonna do for us, Maddie?
Yeah, a little bit of sun, chance of storms. Warm and
Really?
humid. It's going to be wild, baby.
All right. We might have to
We'll figure
see
it out.
what the wind does, but
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll check that
yeah,
out.
man.
Simone, thank you so much as always. I truly appreciate it.
All right, Maddie. Take care.
All right, everybody. Once again, this was another episode of Off the Hook with Matty D. I do appreciate you joining us. It's always fun to have Simone to talk about pan fishing. And truly, yeah, we are going to go out on the river. And the question is, what will we do? How will it work? How much will he yell at me? We'll find out. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Thanks for